Hello gamers, Gutler here. Welcome back to another video on the Games with Gutler YouTube channel. We're going to be talking about some of the recent changes that happened to Commander on Monday, February 9th, 2026. These are things that, you know, the CFP was debating for a while and then finally got back to us with some updates, and then also asked for feedback on some more cards. So let's talk about that and see where we want to go. So I guess big news, unbanning of biorhythm. I don't want to say it's nothing because obviously their biorhythm does have its fans, but biorhythm has always been sort of like a odd card that was, banned. It's sort of a holdover from, you know, decades ago where it was banned by the rules committee, and I don't think it's going to be a card that makes a splash in Commander. I mean, I could understand where people will be like, oh, it's unfun to lose to biorhythm, but we've had like a creature version of biorhythm, right? The little druid guy that does it if you have formidable. um, that's been around for many years, and I've never heard anyone complain about that card, so I don't think the sorcery biorhythm will be, doing much. The other unbanned was Lutri, right? Unbanned, but remains banned as a companion. Um, I I think, like, even though you've got this nice is it Nimbus it playmat, right? Um, I don't know if it needs to be spanned as a companion if we just made it a game changer, right? It means that, like, you'd have to be using it one of your game changer slots to play it in bracket 3, and then in bracket 4 and 5 it's probably like, I know it's a free 101st card, but it's probably like does so little that you're never going to be paying 6 to put it into your hand and then play it to copy something. It just seems so niche. um but I'm fine with it. I've heard that it has its fans. People like otters. Bloomborough had otters. People want to make otter decks. People want to do it. Um, I mean, I don't think Lutri's gonna be. I don't think there's gonna be. I mean, obviously there's people that want to make it as a commander. There's a cool combo you can do with it if you have like a cost reducer, like a medallion where your blue spells cost one less, and you have a snap. You could just infinitely snap your Lutri to play it over and over again. Which, I mean, just raise your storm count. It doesn't win, right? So, but you have to have some sort of storm payoff for that. But uh, that's about all I can think of for Lutri that is in any way powerful. So that's another fine thing. I think that's like a fair acceptance to say it's banned as a companion, but you can play it as a commander in your 99. If you really want an otter, you really want a spell copy effect, right? That's fine. Now, moving on, they also game changered Farewell. I think that's a very good move. Farewell always had a relatively high salt score compared for a card that was not on the game changer list. Like, it was always up with the other game changers in terms of salt score, but and had a high play rate, but was not a game changer itself. So I think that's very fair to do it. I don't know if we need to make any changes to the list. I do think that, like, the future of the game changer list will be, let's cut off the cards at the bottom, like Biorhythm and Coalition Victory and Panoptic Mirror, and these kind of cards that are just like, no one's going to be doing anything degenerate with Panoptic Mirror and low bracket play. You can just make it a normal card that bracket 2 can do, and they can just, put a brainstorm on it, or whatever they want. So I think that's the future of the game changer list. I really like that they didn't do a huge overhaul with brackets or game changers in order to, to do anything. But I think it's like, from the explanation, they want it to be stable and settle and go in a good way. I think that's very smart of them going forward. Now, they did bring up 3 cards to discuss about that potentially hadn't been unbanned yet, but were up for discussion and were some close votes. Now, the first one of those is um, Iona, Shield of Emeria, right? She's this big 9 mana white angel. She's a 7/7 flyer, right? And she has, when you play, as you play her, choose a color. Your opponent can't cast spells of that color. Now, this card was never historically banned in Commander for its effect. So from when I started playing Commander years and years and years ago, it was a legal card. It saw very low play rate. It didn't really do very much, right? It was just a card you'd occasionally see, and my deck, my most played deck of all time, is a mono red deck. Right now, I do play colorless spells, plenty of artifacts and colorless spells in the deck. So I've been Iona locked many times, but I've never felt that like, oh, this is over for me. I can't play any Magic. Right? Part of that is because I do play colorless spells, and then part of that is the dynamic that Iona creates at the table. I'll explain that. So if someone plays Iona and you're on mono red and the other two players are not, like they have, maybe they're playing Simic or maybe they're playing, you know, Azorius or something, right? And they name mono red and lock you out with Iona. You're the only person targeted. What'll happen is that um, you you theoretically can't do anything, right? So you can just like your turn is like if you don't have a colorless spell, it's like draw go, okay, next person. But now the person who has Iona, they have a 7/7 flyer, right? Are they gonna beat you up with that 7/7 flyer when you can't do anything as long as it's alive? Or are they just gonna beat up the other two players, right? They're gonna be beating up the other two players with the Iona, and then eventually one of them will go, okay, enough. I'm sweeping the board or I'm killing your Iona. I'm not just taking seven over and over again from it. Um, and then you can play the game again. So I only had one game of against an Iona that I ever remember where I just ended up losing from the Iona and I couldn't do anything about it. And it's kind of a funny game. I was playing against Captain Sisay deck, the green white Captain Sisay, the old one. Um, so my commander was Jaya Ballard. I played Jaya Ballard. They played Sisay. I was going to kill the Sisay with Jaya, right, with her 3 damage. Um, they tutored for Linvala, played Linvala, and then I couldn't use Jaya, right? So then they were like, "Oh, I'll just replay my Sisay, and then I'll be fine," right? Then what ended up happening is I had Chaos Warp. I go Chaos Warp to Linvala, keep her silence, shuffle her into the deck, and then they shuffle their library, flip the top card. It's Iona, Iona red, and the player just beat me to death with the Iona. But every other time I've been under an Iona lock, I have gotten out of it. I've gotten to play the game. It's never been this death sentence that says, "Oh, you can't play anymore." You're completely locked out for the rest of the game. So I think that like the number one question to ask yourself is if the card for when you're looking at a banned card and we're saying should this be legal is if it was legal now would we vote to ban it, and based on my own experience playing against the card in the past and having the experience of it, I don't think vote to ban Iona. The reason the old rules committee voted to ban Iona was because the painter servant used to be banned, and they unbanned painter servant, and they wanted to ban Iona so that you couldn't do the painter servant Iona lock, which is a thing that can happen. But at the same time, it's like you're using 11 mana of creatures to create a lock, and then even though you're doing the 11 mana lock, like, I mean, the painter servant's a pretty fragile creature that could be, interacted with, right, as a way to break up that lock. And then the the locks are only legal in bracket 4 and 5, right? And those kind of things. So I don't think we need to worry about Painter Servant Iona as a lock. I think we could just unban Iona. I know Giada is a popular commander. She's the Angel commander. Obviously, people that have Giada decks are going to want to put in Iona. I still think that like even though Giada is popular, like a very small percentage of commander decks are going to be angel decks, so we don't need to say, oh, well, this is just to auto include in angel decks. It'll ruin it. It'll ruin Magic Forever with the having Yada legal. I think, or Iona legal. I think we can just say, okay, Iona's legal. That's fine. I don't think I would if she was unbanned now. I'd vote to ban her based on the like. Sometimes it ruins the game for someone who's monocolor, and then they can't get out of the lock. But most of the time they get out of the lock, right? It seems like it's like there's the level of oppression that Iona creates is exaggerated based on my experience of it. My experience of it has been that like it is a like a mean card, but it is not like such a mean card that it just ruins it for everybody. You can't get out of it. I'm just like, okay, no, this is fine. People can deal with it. There's colorless removal. There's Iona doesn't need to be. We don't need a ban list to control Iona. The game changer list is fine, right? The third card, or the second card they brought up, right, is Sundering Titan. So Sundering Titan is a expensive artifact creature. He's a 7/10. When he enters or leaves, you have to choose a land of each basic land type and destroy those lands. So occasionally you will have to kill your own lands with Sundering Titan. Occasionally you get to, like, maybe someone's on 5 color and they have 5 triomes or something. You get to blow up one of each triome, and it's really hurts that one player. But Sundering Titan is, uh, you know, I don't remember playing against him a lot before he was banned, but my experience is that he's not really a good card. Like the idea of, oh, you're gonna play Sundering Titan, you're gonna flicker it and like destroy everyone's lands. Well, one, if they have any non-basic lands, you don't actually destroy all their lands. You just destroy, um, their basic lands. If they have, if someone's on like a green deck, they're only losing like 2 lands per flicker, right? Because you can only target 2 forests, right? So I feel like if it wasn't banned now, right? If we treat it like it was not banned, should we vote to ban it? And I don't think that like the play pattern of Sundering Titan of like people play it and then they blink it and ruin the game is is something that like ruins the game. And there are a lot of like ways you can interact with Sundering Titan, like between anti-ETB effects. You can hit it with a piece of removal in response to their blink spell. So it just comes in and comes out once. It doesn't get to like do this chain. You could hit it with a counter spell, so just go straight to the graveyard, doesn't kill any lands. There's all these ways to like interact with it that we're like, oh, but in like this weird situation, if someone builds their deck to abuse the card, right, they can abuse the card. And I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't seem like it like needs a ban to control it. I feel like players are already pretty savvy about like, hey, my deck doesn't like I don't want to play mass land destruction in my deck or mass land denial in my deck because I want to just play normal Magic, right? And there's sort of like this understood gentleman's agreement between the players of, yeah, we don't play mass land denial and mass land destruction because that's not, you know you're not having fun because you don't get to play because you have no lands, but then I'm also not having fun if you blow up my land. So it's like, I don't get to play either, right? So I'm just sort of like hoping to ride whatever threat I have to victory, and if someone kills a response, it just resets the game and nobody gets to have fun for a while. So I think that is the understanding of how these work, and I don't think that Sundering Titan needs a ban. I think it's fine as a game changer. Now, the final card they asked for feedback on is, of course, Griselbrand, the famous, demon, 8 mana, 4 and 4 black, 7/7 flying demon with lifelink. And he has pay 7 life, draw 7 cards. Now, this was one I didn't expect to see up for unbanning conversation because I would have thought, oh, Griselbrand, that'll be unbanned forever, right? This is, there's no way they're going to let you have a card where you can pay 1 life to 7 life to draw 7 cards, right? 1 life per card. That's kind of nuts, right? I think that's, you know, there's no way they're going to do it. But then I've thought about it more, and I'm thinking, and I'm thinking, and I'm like, the current black cards that we have that are legal, that let you pay life to get cards, let you get cards at a lot better rate, than Griselbrand. So we have some examples here. So I've got, well, we'll talk about Yarmouth Spark in a bit, but I've got Necropotence, Necrologia, and um, Peer into the Abyss, right? So these are all legal cards you can play. And like one thing is, they all of them cost less than 8 mana. Now none of them are 7/7 demons, right, with lifelink that are cool, right? Um, but all of them just let you pay life and get cards, right? So like Necropotence, I can just play it for 3 mana. You could even have it on turn 1 with a Dark Ritual, and you can just keep your hand at 7 all the time. Now one thing is people say Necropotence isn't it doesn't give you access to the cards instantly. It gives you them end of turn, so you have to pay it, and then you have to pay, if you pay 15 life, you'll draw 15 cards, but you can't get to use them until your next turn. Well, in a lot of circumstances, that's fine, right? If I pay 15 deep and I go, okay, well, no one can do much until my next turn, and I'm hoping to find my, whatever cards I need for my combo. I can just do that and get my necropotence and win on the next turn. Now, the other thing is that in, um, you know, bracket 5 commander, necropotence does a really good impersonation of what Griselbrand would do, because they play a lot of cards that enable flash, things like Board Upon the Wind, right? So you can have a situation where you're like, Necro, pay 30 life, draw 30 cards, and then during your own end step, you can just Board Upon the Wind and then continue to cast spells, and then you can just like win. You just win right away. The same way that you're able to with like a Griselbrand if you're digging for a combo, right? But that's like a bracket 5 thing. Is Griselbrand gonna make splashes in bracket 5? I don't know. I'm not a really big. I don't follow states that well, so I don't know the kind of thing. But then when I look at other cards like Necrologia and like Peer into the Abyss, like Peer into the Abyss especially, this is probably like a draw 35 to 40 cards for 7 mana, and you only lose half your life. So it's you're getting 40 cards at at the cost of 7 mana and half your life. So you're not like your low life, right? Or if you use a Griselbrand to draw 35, you'd be at very low life. You use this to draw 35, you know you're still. I mean, you're half as healthy as you were, but you're not. It's not like you're near death, right? Where you are with Griselbrand. So this is like a card with a lot more throughput and power than Griselbrand has. And so I think that like maybe Griselbrand doesn't deserve to be banned. Like he is scary, right? I admit, like he looks like when you look at it, you're like, of course it's going to be banned. You have 40 life and you can draw 40 cards, but it's the kind of thing where it's like when you compare them to like other black cards where you pay life and you get like a big effect, like there's also cards like Valgavoth and there's cards like Bolas of Citadel that let you play spells for life and those have like big effects, right? Where like drawing cards for life is a big effect. It's like, is Griselbrand that scary? And it's like, maybe he's not that scary. Maybe he has he's served his sentence and he should come off the ban list. So like I don't say I'm 100% certain that we could like have Griselbrand in the format and it would be okay. Obviously he's going to be a popular card, but I think that like of the of the bad cards, right? He was not on my list, but I think the argument for him is a little more reasonable than I've seen for other cards coming off. I think it's like, you know, he's a big scary demon that draws cards, right? But black can already kind of draw cards by paying life. Like they have the tools, right? So I think it is I he's a spicy unban, but I think he could be unbanned. So I think I'm putting my vote in, yeah, unban Griselbrand. Let him have, let people do with him. Let him have fun. I don't think you want to like. I mean, obviously you wouldn't want to reban him if he became unbanned. But I think it's like a game changer. Like there's a lot of good black cards that are game changers. So like in bracket 3, I think there's a lot of pressure on Griselbrand to be, if he's one of your game changers, it's like okay, like that's using one of your slots, and you have to give up, a tutor, or you have to give up another black card that you really like, for it. So I think that's perfectly fair, and I think that like maybe this whole game changer system really like balances out. We can unban, other cards. Now, the other thing I want to bring up is Yawgmoth's Bargain, right? Also famously banned, right? 6 mana enchantment, skip your draw step, pay 1 life, draw a card. Almost the same text as Griselbrand, the same rate of exchange of life for cards at 1 card per 1 life. This lets you do the cards one at a time, whereas Griselbrand lets you do them in chunks of 7. I don't think this is like meaningfully more powerful than Griselbrand. I think there's actually probably a worse card than Griselbrand. I know it's less mana, but Griselbrand doesn't cause you to skip your draw step, and Griselbrand also is a 7/7 demon with lifelink, right? So he can potentially give you, you draw 7, then you hit with him, get your life back, and then you can draw another 7, right? So I think it's the kind of thing where this is probably a weaker card than Griselbrand. So if we're talking about unbanning Griselbrand, right, and that being okay, right, because it's comparable to, Peer into the Abyss and other draw spells, I would like Griselbrand and Yawgmoth's Bargain to be treated is like a package deal where they both get unbanned together, because there's really no reason to be like the format is the format like is in a state where a super strong draw engine like Griselbrand is acceptable, but a weaker draw engine like Yawgmoth's Bargain isn't acceptable. I don't think that's like that makes a lot of sense. I think that like you have to say, okay, like if pay one life draw card's okay, then hey, we may pay one life draw card and that'll be okay. And I think that's like, okay, let's do it. Let's have legal Griselbrand. Let's have legal Yawgmoth's Bargain. Now, again, I'm just going to say the other two cards I want unbanned here. I do think Emrakul the Aeon's Torn, we can unban. You know, she is a 15 mana, 15/15 flyer, can't be countered, Annihilator 6, protection from color, for protection spells that are one or more colors. And then she has, if she would, when you player, you take an extra turn. And then she also has um, if she would go to your graveyard, you shuffle the graveyard in the Eldrazi Titan. The Eldrazi Titan thinks you can't reanimate her. I think if we're talking about cards like Biorhythm being unbanned, Coalition Victory being unbanned, Sway of the Stars being unbanned, all these high mana sorceries that are, oh my gosh, it could, Biorhythm can end the game. Worldfire can end the game. These are kind of things that like can happen. If we're talking about all those being okay, Emrakul is kind of like that, but a creature. Like she doesn't have any of the normal creature things. You can't reanimate her because she shuffles in, right? Well, there's very limited spells that can reanimate Emrakul. You need some sort of like weird instant that can do it. Can you cheat her into play? Yeah, but like the idea that oh my gosh, if they unban Emrakul, all the decks will be about cheating Emrakul into play. It's like, well, how many legal Eldrazi are there with Annihilator, right? It's like several, maybe a dozen or more, right? Do we see any decks that are all about like, aha, I got you, I got my sneak attack turn 5, sneak attack my one red, I pay it, I put in an Ulamog or a Kozilek, and I attack you and you annihilate 4, and that's the end of the game, right? We don't see that. Like um nobody's playing the cards that way. So I think Emrakul is like the next card we would like to unban, or I would like to unban, because I think it's like she's so much mana that it's like the consistency with what happened with where you took off cards like Vorinclex and Expropriate and other cards off the GC list, because it's like, hey, these cards are allowed to do, when it's late game and you put a 9 mana card in your deck, you're allowed to play a 9 mana card and it's allowed to have a big effect and win the game, right? And I think Emrakul fits into that category. I mean, she's also an iconic card. She's also the leader of one of Magic's popular creature types, that are unique to Magic, Eldrazi, right? I mean, like dragons and goblins and stuff all existed before, but Eldrazi are a new creation for Magic. So I think that that's one I'd like to see. And then the other card I'm going to pitch here is, of course, I'm going to pitch Library of Alexandria. I think that's a card that, if we're talking about like Griselbrand being legal and Yawgmoth's Bargain being legal in the format as those are like, hey, black can do this. It's like, well, I mean, colorless can use a land to draw a card, right? We have War Room, we have Bonder's Enclave, we have all these other Arch of Erazka. We have all these other colorless lands that have a way to just be like, okay, tap my land, draw a card, tap my land, draw a card. Like, and it's like, oh well, we're gonna keep Library of Alexandria banned when it would probably be like one of the least played cards on the Game Changer list. Like if you look at the Game Changer list in terms of popularity on like EDH Rec, like all of the reserve list land cards, Tabernacle, Workshop, these are among the least played cards on the list. And part of that is there's not many of them floating around. But I mean, part of it is even that like people that proxy cards and they want to play with proxy cards, they know that like, oh well, I should proxy a card. It's like it's okay if I proxy like a $30 card, but I don't want to go proxy a $2,000 card and play that, like in the case of Tabernacle of Pendrell Vale, right, or Mishra's Workshop. They don't want to play those cards, because that's like, I mean, if you like proxy that and put it in, it'd be like a little, you're playing a regular lift at you. If you're like, oh yeah, you're gonna proxy like these cards, right? You're proxy a Gia's Cradle. You're not gonna, I mean, I thought we were playing proxies because you wanted to play, like a Smothering Tithe, something that's like, it's expensive, but it's not too out there. So I think that when we have like library. It's like I know it's a colorless land. It has this very strict condition on when you can draw a card off of it, but it's definitely not going to be like the kind of thing where, oh my gosh, every deck needs a library now. It's like, no, very few decks will ever play a library. Decks that want to double spell and cast 2 spells in one turn don't want library. Decks that want to um, uh, decks that have a strict color requirement don't want library. Decks that have uh, a hard time keeping 7 cards in hand, or maybe they already have good draw engines like Bargain or Griselbrand, and they keep over 7 cards in hand. They don't want library, right? So I think there's this like, you know, it's the card that if you were going to unban it, I think would have the least impact on the list. So I think that one should be unbanned. But of the three that they're asking for feedback on, Griselbrand, Sundering Titan, and Iona Shield of Meria, I think they all sort of meet the criteria of if it was, if it was legal right now, would I vote to ban it? And it's like, well, it's really hard to justify being like, well, Griselbrand is bad, we have to ban it, but this Pure of the Abyss is fine, right? And Bargain is bad, we have to ban it, but Griselbrand and Pure of the Abyss are legal, right? So I think it's like, yeah, why not let them all out? See what happens, right? I think that like these are cool old cards, and to play with them is neat. And I mean, I hope maybe the CFP sees this video, but I hope it does go out and maybe sway some minds. And I think that like the chance of um, those 3 cards being unbanned is fine. I'm not like stoked to play any of them. If they do unban Griselbrand and Yawgmoth's Bargain, I might put my Starscream deck back together. But I don't think we need to have like I don't think it's like, well, if they keep them banned for another year or something and then revisit it, it'll be that bad. But I don't think they're like I don't think they pass the you know this card be in jail forever because of what it did when it was legal? Did it do that? Like Griselbrand was only legal for a month, right? I don't know how long Griselbrand was banned. Legal for before it was banned. Basically, the entire time I played Commander, it's been banned. So it was basically like when Griselbrand came out, they were like they banned it. And it was like, yep, Bargain's banned and unacceptable. Griselbrand, same thing, is banned and unacceptable. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. It was only legal for a month. But then it was like at the same time, it's like, well, if one can come off, the other can come off. I think that's fair. So that's all I got for you, Magic players. Hope you have a good day. This has been Cutler. I will see you. I don't know when I'll make another one of these, but I hope uh these cards become unbanned. I hope Emrakul becomes unbanned. I'd like to see Lyra of Alexandria in the format. Awesome job, great job, Gavin, with the CFP. I keep it up, guys. I think you're really onto something. All right, adios. See you later.